Forgive me, Callum. Eleanor Blackwood pressed her husband's photograph against her chest and counted the money one more time. $52, four $20 bills, one 10-2 ones. She'd counted it 17 times in the last hour. The number never changed, $52. That's what 40 years came down to. $52 and 4 days until the bank buried her alive. The wind screamed outside like it wanted her dead too. Highway 50 had disappeared 3 hours ago. Nothing out there now but white death and howling cold. The kind of storm that killed people. The kind of storm that made you wonder if God was paying attention. Eleanor looked at the foreclosure notice next to the cash register. She'd memorized every word, every legal phrase that meant the same thing: you lose. Final notice. 4 days, $11,000. The bank didn't care that her husband was dead. The bank didn't care that she'd kept this diner open through recessions and blizzards and heartbreak. The bank cared about $11,000, and Eleanor Blackwood had 52. She walked to the phone, her hands shook, not from cold, from the weight of giving up. The first call went to her sister Barbara in Sacramento. Ring, 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 ring. Voicemail. Eleanor's voice cracked when she tried to speak. Barbara, it's Elle. I don't know why I'm calling. I guess I just wanted to tell someone. The bank is taking the diner. Thursday. They're taking it Thursday and I can't stop them. I tried everything, Barb. I sold my ring. I sold Callum's tools. I sold everything we had, and it wasn't enough. It was never enough. She hung up before the tears came. Second call, Robert McKenzie, the lawyer who'd helped them incorporate 30 years ago. His secretary answered, professional and distant. I'm sorry, Mrs. Blackwood. Mr. McKenzie is in court all week. Can I take a message? Eleanor said no. What message could she leave? Save me, I'm drowning. Help. Third call. Pastor Williams at the Lutheran church where she and Callum had married 42 years ago. His wife answered, Oh, Eleanor, honey, I'm so sorry. Pastor's at a conference in Phoenix. He won't be back until next Monday. Monday would be too late. Monday the diner would belong to First Mountain Financial. Monday Eleanor would have nowhere to go. Fourth call, her nephew Marcus in Denver. The phone rang 8 times before going to voicemail. Eleanor didn't leave a message this time. What was the point? Nobody was coming. Nobody could help. She was alone in this, just like she'd been alone in everything since Callum died. The coffee pot gurgled behind her, half full of 8-hour-old sludge that nobody was coming to drink. The highway had been closed since 2. Anyone with a brain was home safe, warm, alive. Not Eleanor. Eleanor was here in Blackwood's Haven talking to a dead man's picture and counting money that wouldn't save anything. She slid into booth 3, Callum's booth, the cracked vinyl seat where he'd sat every morning for 40 years. 6 a.m., 7 days a week, coffee, black eggs, over easy toast with butter. He'd sit right here and watch the highway like he was waiting for something important. Maybe he had been. Maybe he'd been waiting for this moment. The moment his wife would lose everything they'd built together. Remember what you used to say, Eleanor traced a scratch in the tabletop. A deep gouge from 1987 when a trucker's knife had slipped. Callum had wanted to replace the whole table. Eleanor had said no. Keep it. Scars tell stories. This highway is lonely, Maggie. Travelers need to know someone cares. They need a light waiting for them. She'd believed him. God help her, she'd believed every word. They'd opened this diner in 1982 with $15,000 in savings and a promise to each other. Never turn away a soul in need. Anyone who needs help gets help. No questions, no payment required. Just kindness. Just light in the darkness. For 40 years, they'd kept that promise. Fed people who couldn't pay. Let stranded families sleep in the booths. Given directions to the lost hope, to the desperate coffee, to anyone who walked through that door. Callum had died believing it mattered. Believing that small acts of kindness created ripples that spread farther than you could see. Eleanor didn't know what she believed anymore. The heater groaned, coughed, kept fighting a battle it was losing. Eleanor pulled her cardigan tight. Cold had moved into her bones months ago, right around the time she'd accepted the truth. She was going to lose this place. She was going to lose Callum all over again. The photograph stared at her from the wall. Callum at 45, beard, still dark eyes, still bright with hope. They'd taken that picture the week they'd opened, back when everything felt possible. back when they'd believed that love and hard work could overcome anything. I'm sorry. The words came out broken. I'm so sorry, baby. I couldn't keep our promise. I tried. God knows I tried. But I'm just one person and the world is too big and I'm too tired and I don't know how to fight anymore. She reached for the light switch, ready to let the darkness win, ready to give up, ready to accept that sometimes, no matter how hard you fight, you lose anyway. Then she heard it, low, distant, a rumble that didn't belong in a blizzard. Eleanor's head snapped up. The sound grew deeper, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of steel and fury. She pressed her face to the window. Nothing. White. More white. Then headlights punching through the storm like fists. 1, 3, 5, 7, 15 motorcycles. Jesus Christ. They came in formation, tight and controlled engines, screaming against the wind. Big bikes, Harley Davidsons, every single one. The headlights swept across her windows and lit up the empty diner like a prison searchlight. Eleanor stepped back from the glass, her heart hammered. 15 motorcycles in a blizzard. Nobody rode in weather like this. Nobody except people running from something or running towards something, and either way it meant trouble. The lead rider pulled in first. Huge man's shoulders wide enough to block a doorway. His bike skidded on the ice, but he controlled it like he'd been riding through hell his whole life. The others followed, parked in a perfect line. Engines idling, a mechanical choir singing in the storm. 15 men climbed off their bikes. Eleanor watched them come. Leather jackets, heavy boots. They moved with confidence, with purpose, like men who'd stopped asking permission a long time ago. She saw the patches on their backs, the death's head, the deaths, the winged skull, the words she'd seen in 100 news reports. Hell's Angels. Her hand found the phone. Call 911, call someone, call anyone. But she didn't dial, because the lead rider was limping, trying to hide it, but Eleanor had spent 40 years reading Tired Travelers. This man was running on empty. Behind him, one biker was helping another walk. A third was shaking so hard his whole body vibrated. They'd been out there for hours, freezing, dying slowly. Never turn away a soul in need, Maggie. You never know who you're really helping. Callum's voice in her head, clear as if he were standing beside her. The lead rider reached her door. He stopped. Didn't try the handle. Didn't pound on the glass. Didn't demand anything. He raised his fist and knocked. 3 soft taps. Eleanor looked at the phone in her hand, looked at the man outside, looked at Callum's photograph on the wall. His eyes seemed to say, "You know what to do. You've always known." She put down the phone, walked to the door, turned the lock. The man spoke before she could open it. His voice carried through the glass, rough as gravel. "Ma'am, we don't want trouble." Eleanor pulled the door open. Cold slammed into her like a truck. The man on her doorstep was a giant, 6'4" easy, covered head to toe in ice. His beard had frozen solid. His leather jacket crackled when he moved. His eyes were red from wind and exhaustion, but they held something she didn't expect. Respect. Name's Axel. His voice was raw, torn up by hours of cold. "Friends call me Ghost. We've been riding 14 hours. Storm caught us bad. We're not going to make it much further." He paused, looked at the 14 men standing in the snow behind him, looked back at Eleanor. "We can pay, whatever you want." Eleanor looked past him, 14 more men standing in the snow, frozen, desperate, waiting. She was a 68-year-old woman with $52 and 4 days left. These were Hell's Angels, bikers, outlaws, the kind of men polite society crossed the street to avoid. But right now they were just people, cold people, dying people, people who needed help. "Get inside." Ghost blinked. Ma'am, Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. "I said get inside before you die on my doorstep. All of you, now, move." Ghost stared at her for 3 full seconds. Then something shifted in his face, not a smile, something deeper, something like recognition. "Yes, ma'am," he stepped in. The others followed. 15 Hell's Angels filled Eleanor Blackwood's diner, bringing the storm with them. Snow fell from their jackets in chunks. Ice shattered off their boots. The temperature dropped so fast Eleanor's breath turned to fog. She was already behind the counter grabbing cups. "Coffee's hot. Sit anywhere." Ghost held up his hand. His men stopped like soldiers. Ma'am, we pay first. I don't do misunderstandings. Coffee is free. Ma'am, sit down. Eleanor's voice had the authority of 40 years behind it. 40 years of managing drunks and difficult customers and men who thought they could intimidate her. She was 68 years old, 5'4" in her shoes, and she'd buried a husband and fought a bank and survived 18 months of hell. She wasn't afraid of leather jackets. You're about to collapse, and I can't drag your frozen carcasses out of my diner. Sit. Now, silence. Then a sound moved through the group, almost a laugh, low and rough like rocks tumbling. Ghost's frozen beard twitched. Something might have been a smile underneath all that ice. Yes, ma'am. The bikers spread out. Booths, stools, tables. They moved like soldiers, stayed away from windows, kept eyes on the door. Eleanor noticed, filed it away. These men lived in a world where you watched your back, where trust was earned in blood. She poured coffee without asking. The men wrapped their hands around the mugs like they were holding on to life. Steam rose into their faces. Some of them closed their eyes, and one made a sound that could have been a prayer or a sob. Ghost sat at the counter. Up close, he was even bigger. Hands like sledgehammers, arms thick as fence posts. Tattoos disappeared under his collar, probably covering his whole body. But his eyes, tired, weathered, old beyond their years. Those eyes watched her with something she didn't expect. Respect. Maybe even gratitude. Got a name, Eleanor. Eleanor Blackwood. Ghost nodded slowly. Mrs. Blackwood. I don't think you understand what you just did. Let some frozen travelers in from the cold. Eleanor refilled his cup even though he hadn't touched it. Callum would have done the same. Ghost's eyes moved to the photograph on the wall. The man with the dark beard and bright eyes. Husband. 18 months. I'm sorry. Eleanor shrugged. The motion cost her more than she'd ever let him see. Life happens. Death too. She refilled cups down the counter. The men drank in silence. Grateful. Reverent almost. Like the coffee was holy water. Where were you headed? Eleanor asked. Nobody rides in this weather for fun. Ghost's jaw tightened. The muscles bunched under his frozen beard. Funeral. One of ours. Garrett Sutherland. Cancer. A new voice. Young. Broken. Eleanor turned. A man in his mid-30s sat in the corner booth. Red-rimmed eyes. Face wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. The kind of grief that was too big to contain. 2 years he fought it. The young man's voice cracked. 2 years. You were close. He raised me. My real father left when I was 6. Garrett stepped in, became the father I needed, taught me everything about being a man. Eleanor crossed the floor, put her hand on the young man's shoulder. What's your name, honey? Kieran. They call me Jax. Kieran, Eleanor squeezed gently. She felt the tension in his shoulders, the way his whole body was wound tight like a spring about to break. I lost my Callum 18 months ago. Found him right here in this diner. Heart attack. Gone before I could say goodbye. Her own eyes stung. The grief never really left. It just learned to wait quietly in the corners. The missing doesn't stop. I won't lie to you about that. But it changes, gets softer. You start remembering the good times instead of the last time. I promise you that. When does it get soft? Different for everyone. But it will. You hold on to that. Kieran's hand came up, covered hers, held on tight like she was the only thing keeping him from drowning. Ghost watched from the counter. His expression had changed. The hardness was still there. The warrior stance, the ready for violence posture. But something else had crept in. Something human. When Eleanor came back, he spoke quietly. That was kind. It was true. Not the same thing. Not in my world. Eleanor poured herself a cup of coffee. Her hands were steadier now. Strange how helping someone else did that. Made you feel less alone in your own grief. So, 15 Hells Angels riding to a funeral in the worst blizzard in 30 years. Couldn't wait for better weather. Garrett wouldn't have waited. Man rode through storms that would have killed normal people. We figured we owed him the same. Nearly killed yourselves doing it. Ghost wrapped his hands around his mug. Looked into the black coffee like he could see the future there. Respect isn't supposed to be easy, Mrs. Blackwood. What did he do? Your Garrett saved us, all of us, one way or another. Ghost's voice dropped low enough that only Eleanor could hear. Garrett was Gulf War. Desert Storm 91. Saw things that broke most men. Came home and didn't know how to live anymore. Started drinking. Started fighting. Lost everything. Sounds like a lot of soldiers. Was a lot of soldiers. Still is. Ghost glanced at his men scattered around the diner. Warming up. Coming back to life. Garrett found the club. Found brothers who understood. Spent the last 20 years visiting wounded warriors at VA hospitals. Sitting with them. Talking them through it. Saving lives the way someone should have saved his. He sounds like Callum. Ghost met her eyes. They would have been friends. Eleanor studied him over the rim of her cup. This massive man with his leather and his tattoos and his death's head patch. He wasn't what she'd expected. None of them were. She'd expected violence, threat, danger. Instead, she found grief and brotherhood and men who rode through blizzards to honor their dead. When's the last time any of you ate silence? That told her everything. That's what I thought. Eleanor headed for the kitchen. The shelves were nearly bare. Dozen eggs, half a pack of bacon, bread for toast, 2 cans of beans, frozen sausages in the back of the freezer. She'd been stretching her food for the week, maybe longer, until Thursday when the bank came, until she had nothing left to stretch. 15 starving men. Eleanor started cooking. She made everything. Every egg, every strip of bacon, every slice of bread, heated the beans, fried the sausages. The kitchen filled with smells that reminded her of better days. Mornings when Callum stood beside her at the grill, shoulders touching, working in perfect rhythm, partners in every sense. Eleanor carried the food out plate by plate, set them on the counter until it was covered. The bikers stared like she'd performed a miracle, like food was something they'd forgotten existed. Eat. Don't argue. Just eat. They ate. God, they ate. Like men who'd forgotten what sustenance felt like. Like the food was medicine and they were dying. Eleanor watched them and felt something stir in her chest. Something that had been dormant for 18 months. Purpose. Connection. The reason she and Callum had opened this place. Ghost didn't touch his plate. He watched his men for a long moment, made sure everyone else had food first, made sure the youngest ones, the ones who needed it most, got the biggest portions. Then he turned to Eleanor. How much? Nothing. Ma'am, when Callum and I opened this place, we made a promise. Anyone who needs help gets help. No questions, no payment. That was your husband's promise. It was our promise. Eleanor met his eyes, held them, still is. Ghost went quiet. His gaze drifted to the counter, to the paper sticking out from under the cash register. The white edge of the foreclosure notice. Damn it, what's that? Eleanor snatched it, shoved it in her apron. Nothing. Mrs. Blackwood. I said nothing. Ghost held her gaze. 10 seconds. 20. Reading her the way she'd read him. Understanding passed between them. The kind of understanding that doesn't need words. Right, he said finally. We won't push. But he'd seen it. Eleanor knew he'd seen it. And something in his eyes told her this wasn't over. The CB radio exploded to life. Static. Then a voice cutting through, strong and clear. Breaker 19, this is Steele out of Reno. Ghost, you copy. Ghost was across the room in 3 strides. Grabbed the handset. Steele, this is Ghost. We copy. Brother, where the hell are you? National's been going crazy. Every chapter from here to Oakland is asking if we found you. Storm caught us. Found shelter. Ghost glanced at Eleanor. Little diner on Highway 50. Place called Blackwood's Haven. Static, then the voice on the radio dropped. Changed. Became something else. Something reverent. Hold up, Blackwood's Haven, that place still exists. Still here, still open. The voice on the radio went quiet for 3 full seconds. Eleanor counted them. 1, 2, 3, then, you know what place that is, right? You know who runs it? Eleanor frowned. What the hell were they talking about? Tell me, the angel of Highway 50, brother. That's her place. Woman who's been helping stranded travelers for 40 years. Never takes money. Never turns anyone away. Every trucker west of the Rockies knows that name. A pause. Eleanor felt the eyes of every biker in the room turn toward her. You're sitting in a legend's living room right now. Ghost lowered the handset slowly. Every biker in the diner was staring at Eleanor, not with suspicion, not with pity, with something that looked almost like awe. "You're the angel," Eleanor shook her head. "That's just trucker talk. I'm nobody special." "Ma'am," Ghost stepped closer. His voice carried weight, the kind of weight that came from a lifetime of hard decisions and harder losses. "In 40 years, how many people have you helped? I don't know. I never counted. Hundreds. Thousands. They came through. They needed help. We helped. That's all. That's all." Ghost shook his head like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Thousands of people, 40 years, and you say that's all?" "It's what Callum would have wanted. Callum was a lucky man." The words hit Eleanor like a fist. Her eyes burned. She turned away fast, grabbed coffee cups that didn't need washing. The tears were coming, and she couldn't stop them. Wouldn't let these men see her break down. Not now, not when she'd held it together for 18 months. Mrs. Blackwood. She didn't turn around. "The foreclosure notice. How bad is it?" "Doesn't matter, it matters to me." Why, Eleanor's voice cracked. "You don't know me. You've been in my diner for an hour. Why would you care about some old woman's problems?" Ghost's voice dropped low enough that only she could hear. "Because good people are rare, Mrs. Blackwood. This world loves to destroy good people. So I'm asking you, how bad is it?" Eleanor turned around. 15 men watched her, food forgotten, attention absolute, waiting for her answer, waiting to know if they could help. These men who'd ridden through a storm, these hell's angels, these outlaws. 4 days. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. $11,000. I have 52. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "This diner is all I have left of him. 4 days from now, it's gone. I'm gone." Eleanor straightened her spine, forced strength into her voice even though there was none left. "But that's my problem, not yours. You've got your own grief. Eat your food. Get warm. Don't worry about some old woman who couldn't keep a promise." Silence stretched like a wire about to snap. The wind howled outside. The heater groaned. Eleanor waited for them to nod, to agree, to finish their food and leave, to let her die in peace. Instead, Ghost reached into his jacket. "Mrs. Blackwood, I need you to listen to me." He pulled out a satellite phone, black, military grade, the kind of phone that worked anywhere, anytime. "What's that for?" "Making a call." Ghost's eyes locked onto hers, cold, hard, certain as death. "You think you're alone in this fight? You are not. What you've been doing for 40 years. The people you've saved, the lights you've kept on, that matters. It matters more than you will ever know." He started dialing. "Who are you calling?" Ghost looked at her, really looked at her, like she was something precious, something worth protecting. "Everyone." Ghost punched in the numbers without looking. His fingers knew them by heart. Eleanor watched him. Her chest felt tight. $52. 4 days. $11,000 of debt. What could a phone call do? What could anyone do? The phone rang twice. A voice answered. Deep, rough. The kind of voice that had given orders for decades and never heard the word no. "Ghost, you better be alive." "I'm alive, Steele. All 15 of us. Where the hell are you? We've had chapters from here to Oregon looking for your signal." Ghost's eyes stayed on Eleanor, Highway 50, little diner called Blackwood's Haven. "Storm pushed us off the road, but we found shelter." Silence on the line. Then Steele's voice changed, dropped low, became something else. "Blackwood's Haven. You sure about that? I'm standing in it right now. The Angel's place." "Yeah." Ghost paused, looked at Eleanor, at the foreclosure notice she tried to hide, at the photograph of Callum on the wall, at 40 years of promises kept. "And Steele, we've got a situation." Eleanor shook her head hard. "No. Whatever you're thinking, stop. I didn't help you, so you'd owe me something." Ghost ignored her. "The Angel is about to lose everything. Bank's taking the diner in 4 days. $11,000 she doesn't have." "Ghost," I said no. "How long has she been helping travelers?" 40 years. Her and her husband. He died 18 months ago. She's been fighting alone ever since. More silence. Eleanor could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of something building, something she didn't understand and couldn't control. Then Steele spoke again. 40 years and nobody helped her. Nobody knew she needed it. We know now. Yeah, we do. Eleanor grabbed Ghost's arm. Her grip was stronger than he expected. 40 years of lifting plates and scrubbing floors and keeping a diner alive had made her hands strong. Listen to me, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I can't take charity. Callum wouldn't have wanted Mrs. Blackwood. Steele's voice came through the phone loud enough for her to hear, strong enough to cut through her protest. My name is Magnus Donnelly. I'm the national president of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, and I need you to understand something. Eleanor froze. 23 years ago, my brother broke down on Highway 50, middle of summer, 110 degrees. No water, no phone, no way to call for help. He was dying out there, literally dying. Steele's voice cracked. Just a little, just enough to make it human. A woman found him, drove him to a hospital, saved his life. Wouldn't take a dime for it. You know what she said when he tried to pay her? Eleanor's hand fell away from Ghost's arm. Something cold moved through her chest. A memory trying to surface, trying to break through 18 months of grief and 40 years of helping people. She said, just pass it on, honey. Help somebody else when you get the chance. Steele paused. Let the words settle. Let them sink in. That woman was you, Mrs. Blackwood. And my brother, he died 6 years ago. Cancer. But he never forgot you. Never. He talked about the angel of Highway 50 until his last breath. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak. Couldn't. The memories were coming now. Summer, 2001. A young man on the side of the road. Dehydrated. Desperate. She'd been driving back from Reno. Had seen him collapse in the dirt. Had picked him up. Driven him to the emergency room. Stayed with him until they said he'd be okay. She'd forgotten. In 40 years of helping people, she'd forgotten. How many others had she forgotten? How many lives had she touched without knowing it? I don't remember. You helped so many people. You can't remember them all. Steele's voice was gentle now, almost tender. But they remember you. Every single one of them remembers. Ghost watched Eleanor's face crumble. 40 years of strength. 40 years of holding everything together. Keeping the lights on. Keeping the promise. And now it was all coming apart. She was breaking. Finally, after 18 months of fighting alone, she was breaking. Steele, Ghost said into the phone. What do you want me to do? Keep her there. Keep her safe. I'm making calls. How many calls? All of them. The line went dead. Ghost pocketed the phone. Eleanor was staring at him with wet eyes and a trembling mouth. She looked smaller now, more fragile, like a strong wind could blow her away. I don't understand, she whispered. Why would you do this? You don't know me. Ghost pulled out a stool and sat down across from her. His knees cracked. 14 hours of riding did that to a man. Mrs. Blackwood, let me tell you something about the world I live in. He folded his massive hands on the counter. Scarred knuckles, broken fingers that had healed wrong, hands that had seen violence and created it. People see the patch and they see a monster. They see a criminal. They see someone to fear. And maybe they're right. Maybe I've done things that would make you sick. He paused. But here's what those people don't understand. We have a code. Loyalty, brotherhood, and respect for people who earn it. I haven't earned anything. You've been earning it for 40 years. You just didn't keep score. Ghost leaned closer. His voice dropped to something almost sacred. You know how rare that is? In my world, everyone keeps score. Everyone remembers who owes what. Everyone's looking for an angle. And then there's you, feeding strangers your last meal, keeping the lights on for travelers who will never pay you back, staying open in a blizzard because somebody might need help. He shook his head slowly. That's not normal, Mrs. Blackwood. That's holy. Eleanor wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. The tears wouldn't stop. 18 months. She'd held it together for 18 months. Buried her husband. Sold her wedding ring. Fought the bank. Kept the diner open. Kept the lights on. Kept the promise. And now finally someone saw. Someone understood. Callum was the holy one. I just kept his promise. And now we're going to keep ours. The CB radio crackled again. A different voice this time. Younger, urgent, Breaker 19. This is Roadkill out of Oakland. Anyone copy at Blackwood's? One of the bikers jumped up. Massive man with arms covered in tattoos. He grabbed the handset. Roadkill, this is Hammer, we copy. Hammer. Thank God. Word just hit the network about the Angel. Oakland chapter is saddling up. 32 bikes will be there by morning. Eleanor's jaw dropped. 32. The radio exploded, voice after voice. Chapter after chapter. The speakers couldn't keep up. Blackwoods. This is Phoenix Rising. We've got 41 bikes ready to roll. ETA 12 hours. Breaker. This is Denver Steel. 28 bikes. We're coming through the storm. Salt Lake chapter. Checking in. 19 bikes. On our way. Vegas chapter. 35 bikes. Nothing stops us. Eleanor grabbed the counter to keep from falling. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Chapters from across the West. Hundreds of miles. Deadly weather. All of them coming. All of them riding through hell. For her. This can't be. Ghost stood, put a hand on her shoulder. Steady, solid, real. I told you. Everyone. Hammer approached the counter, that massive frame somehow looking smaller now, vulnerable. His voice was surprisingly gentle for a man his size. Mrs. Blackwood, can I tell you something? Of course. Hammer sat down heavily in the nearest booth. Eleanor slid in across from him. She needed to sit, needed to breathe, needed to understand what was happening. 12 years ago, I broke down about 20 miles from here. Summer. Hot as hell. My bike was dead and I'd been walking for 3 hours. Eleanor looked at him. Really looked. And the memory came back. A younger man, thinner. Skull tattoo on his neck smaller than. Sunburn. Desperate. I remember. You had a skull tattoo on your neck. Hammer touched his neck. The skull was still there, faded now. Surrounded by other ink. You remember? You looked like you were going to pass out. Callum gave you water and let you use his tools. You fixed your bike and rode off. Never got your name. Marcus Aldridge. Hammer's voice thickened. I never forgot what you did. Never. And now I get to pay it back. Another biker stood. Younger, maybe 30. Wild red hair and a face full of freckles. He looked like someone's kid brother. I don't have a story about this place. I never met you before tonight, but I've heard about you. Every biker who's ever ridden Highway 50 has heard about the Angel. He pulled out his wallet, dropped a handful of bills on the counter. That's everything I've got. It ain't much, but it's yours. I can't take your money. You can, and you will. The redhead grinned, young and fierce and alive. Name's Whiskey, and I don't take no for an answer. One by one, the bikers approached. One by one, they dropped money on the counter. Crumpled 20s, worn 10s, a few hundreds that had clearly been saved for emergencies. This was their emergency. Saving the Angel, protecting the woman who protected so many others. Eleanor's voice broke. Please stop. This is too much. It's not enough, Ghost said. Not yet, but it will be. The radio crackled again. Blackwoods, this is Mama Bear, out of Sacramento. Got a convoy of old ladies heading your way. We're bringing food blankets and about $6,000 in cash. ETA 8 hours. Hold tight, Angel. The cavalry is coming. Eleanor's legs gave out. Ghost caught her before she hit the floor. Eased her into a booth. Her whole body was shaking. Not from cold, from the weight of it. The impossible weight of being seen, being valued, being loved by people she'd never met. Breathe, just breathe. I can't process this. You don't have to. Just sit there and let us take care of things for once. Kieran slid into the booth across from her. His eyes were still red, but something had changed in his face. A spark of life that hadn't been there before. Mrs. Blackwood. Can I tell you something about Garrett? Eleanor nodded weakly. He was Gulf War, Desert Storm, saw things that broke most men, came home and didn't know how to live anymore. Started drinking, started fighting, lost everything. Kieran's voice dropped. Then he found the club. Found brothers who understood. My real dad had abandoned us. Garrett stepped in, raised me like I was his own son, taught me everything about being a man, found a reason to keep going. He sounds like Callum. They would have been friends. Kieran smiled sadly. Garrett spent his last years visiting wounded warriors at VA hospitals, helping them find peace before they died. He'd sit with them for hours, just listening, just being there. He paused, looked at Eleanor with eyes that had seen too much grief for 34 years. He used to say, the ones who give without expecting anything back, those are the real angels, and angels need protecting. Eleanor's tears started again. She couldn't stop them anymore. Didn't want to. You're an angel, Mrs. Blackwood, and Garrett would have burned the world down to protect you. Kieran's voice cracked. Since he can't, we will. The door burst open. Everyone tensed. Hands went to weapons, then relaxed. A woman stood in the doorway, mid-40s. Long dark hair streaked with gray. Leather jacket that read Sacramento. She looked around the diner with fierce eyes. Which one of you was Eleanor Blackwood? Eleanor raised a trembling hand. The woman crossed the diner in 4 strides and pulled Eleanor into a hug so fierce it nearly broke her. My name is Bryn Gallagher. 15 years ago, I was running from an abusive husband. Had a baby boy in the car and nowhere to go. I stopped here this diner because I was out of gall and out of hope. Eleanor's eyes widened. The memory came flooding back. The terrified woman. The infant. The way she'd kept looking at the door like the devil himself was about to walk through. The woman with the baby. You were so scared. I was terrified. He was right behind me. 30 minutes. That's how close he was. Bryn pulled back. Her eyes were fierce and wet. You filled my tank. You gave me money. You told me about a shelter in Reno. And when my ex walked through that door 20 minutes later, you looked him right in the eye and lied through your teeth. Told him you'd never seen me. Eleanor remembered now. The man with the mean eyes. The questions that felt like threats. The way her heart had pounded when she'd pointed him in the wrong direction. Sent him east when Bryn had gone west. He was dangerous. He would have killed me. Killed my son. Bryn's voice shook. You saved 2 lives that day, Eleanor. 2 lives. And you've probably saved hundreds more. Thousands. She gripped Eleanor's hands tight. So don't you dare tell us we can't help you. Don't you dare. The radio crackled again. Blackwoods. This is Lone Wolf out of Portland. We've got a situation up here. Ghost grabbed the handset. Lone Wolf, this is Ghost. What's your situation? Storm's bad, brother. Real bad. But we've got 23 bikes ready to roll and we're not waiting for it to clear. Just wanted you to know. If we don't make it, tell the angel we tried. Eleanor's heart seized. No. Tell them to stay put. Tell them it's not worth. Ghost keyed the mic. Lone Wolf, hold your position. That's an order. The storm will break by morning. No one dies for this. Static. Then negative. Ghost. Garrett would have ridden through hell for the angel. We're doing the same. Portland chapter rolling out. The line went dead. Eleanor grabbed Ghost's arm. You have to stop them. They'll die out there. I can't stop them. Ghost's voice was quiet, heavy. Nobody can. When we commit to something, we commit. That's who we are. But it's just a diner. It's not just a diner. Ghost turned to face her, his eyes burning. It's 40 years of proof that good people still exist. It's a light in the darkness for every traveler who's ever felt alone. It's everything my brothers have been looking for their whole lives. Evidence that someone out there gives a damn. He put his hands on her shoulders, gentle despite his size. Mrs. Blackwood, you have no idea what you've built here. No idea, but we do. And we're not letting it die. Not tonight. Not ever. Eleanor couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The weight of it was crushing, beautiful and terrible and more than she could carry. For 40 years, she'd kept the lights on. For 40 years, she'd helped people without expecting anything in return. And now they were coming back. All of them. An army of gratitude. A tsunami of love. The door opened again. A young man stumbled in. Early 20s, thin, shivering violently. He wasn't wearing leather, wasn't riding a bike, just a kid in a hoodie who looked like he'd been walking through the blizzard for hours. Please, he gasped, please help me. My car broke down 3 miles back. My phone's dead. I didn't think I was going to make it. Every biker in the room watched Eleanor, waiting, testing, seeing if the legend was real, seeing if the angel would help one more person when she had nothing left to give. Eleanor didn't hesitate, not for a second. She was out of the booth, grabbing a blanket from behind the counter, wrapping it around the young man's shoulders. Sit down, honey. Right here, I'll get you some coffee. When's the last time you ate? I don't have any money. I didn't ask about money. I asked when you ate. The young man's eyes filled with tears. Yesterday. Maybe. Eleanor was already heading for the kitchen. She had 2 eggs left, the ones she'd been saving, for what she didn't know. An emergency, a day when things got really bad. Things were really bad. She cracked them into the pan anyway. Ghost appeared in the kitchen doorway, watched her cook with something like wonder in his eyes. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. We could feed him. We've got money, resources, and I've got eggs. Eleanor flipped them expertly. 40 years of practice made her hands certain even when everything else was falling apart. This is my diner, and in my diner, guests get fed. That's the rule. That's always been the rule. Ghost leaned against the doorframe. You know something, Mrs. Blackwood, I've been riding with the Hellsangels for 30 years. I've seen a lot of things, done a lot of things, some of them good, most of them not. He paused. But I've never met anyone like you. I'm just an old woman who can't let go of a promise. No. Ghost's voice dropped. You're a reminder that somewhere, somehow, people like you still exist, and that gives the rest of us hope. Eleanor slid the eggs onto a plate, added the last slice of bread, carried it past Ghost without meeting his eyes. She couldn't. If she looked at him, she'd break down completely. And she had one more person to feed. Hope is overrated. Shin is what matters. She brought the plate to the young man in the booth, set it down in front of him. Eat slowly, your body's been through a lot. The young man looked at the food, then at her. Tears were streaming down his face. Why are you being so kind to me? You don't even know me. Eleanor sat down across from him. Her body ached. 68 years of fighting and working and grieving. But she could sit with one more person in need. What's your name, honey, Finn? Finn Gallagher. Something flickered in Eleanor's memory. Gallagher, she turned. Bryn was standing 3 feet away, her hand pressed to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Gallagher, Bryn whispered. Finn looked up, confused. Yeah. Why? Bryn took a step forward, then another. Then she was running. Finn. Baby, is that you? Finn's eyes went wide, his whole body went rigid. Then he was standing, stumbling, the blanket falling away. Mom Bryn threw her arms around him, mother and son, reunited in the middle of a blizzard in a diner that was supposed to close in 4 days. They held each other and sobbed. 15 years apart, 15 years of searching, and they'd found each other here, in Eleanor's diner, at Eleanor's table. Oh my God, baby, what are you doing here? How did you? I was driving to Reno to find you. I finally got your address from the shelter paperwork, and I was coming to find you, and then the storm hit, and my car died, and Finn broke down completely. I've been looking for you for 3 years, Mom. 3 years. I had the old diner business card you'd kept, the one with directions to the shelter. Had this address written on the back. Been driving through Nevada for months trying to find this place. And tonight the storm pushed me right to it. The entire diner had gone silent. Every biker watched. Some had tears in their eyes. These hard men, these warriors, crying over a mother and son reunion. Eleanor stood up slowly, backed away. Let them have their moment. This was theirs, not hers. She just provided the space. The light, the place where miracles could happen. Ghost appeared at her side. His voice was barely audible. Did you know Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper? I had no idea he was looking for this place. Looking for her. 15 years ago, you saved that woman and her baby. Tonight, her son follows your business card through a blizzard and walks into your diner. Right when his mother is here. Ghost shook his head. You still want to tell me there's no such thing as angels? Eleanor couldn't answer. The room was spinning. Her heart was pounding. $52. 4 days. $11,000 of debt. And now this, chapters mobilizing. Money pouring in, a mother and son reunited. The weight of 40 years of kindness coming back all at once. The radio crackled one more time. Blackwoods, this is Steele. I'm on my way. Personal, got 100 bikes behind me and another 100 meeting us on the road. We'll be there by dawn. A pause. Angel, start making coffee. You're about to have a lot of guests. Eleanor looked around her diner, at the bikers who'd become her protectors, at Bryn and Finn crying in each other's arms, at the frozen world outside that had somehow become warm. And for the first time in 18 months, she felt Callum standing beside her. "We did good, baby." She could almost hear him say, "We did good." The wind howled outside. The storm raged on. But inside Blackwood's Haven, something was happening that defied logic, defied reason, defied everything Eleanor thought she knew about the world. She was being saved by the people she'd spent her whole life saving, and this was only the beginning. The clock on the wall read 2:47. Outside, the blizzard was weakening. The snow still fell, but the wind had died from a scream to a moan. Dawn was coming, and with it an army, hundreds of motorcycles, thousands of dollars, an entire network of brotherhood mobilizing to save one woman who'd never asked for anything in return. Eleanor stood at the window watching the white world, waiting. For the first time in 4 days, she felt something she'd thought was dead. Hope, not the desperate kind, the real kind, the kind that came from knowing you weren't alone, that your life had mattered, that 40 years of keeping the lights on had meant something after all. Behind her, Ghost made another call, coordinating, planning, building an army out of scattered chapters and shared purpose. Eleanor heard him talking, heard the determination in his voice. These men were coming. Nothing would stop them, not distance, not weather, not death itself. And then headlights appeared on the horizon, 2 of them, not bikes. A black SUV. Eleanor's stomach dropped. She knew that vehicle, had seen it earlier. 3 o'clock, right before the bikers arrived. Ghost. Her voice was tight. "We've got company." Every biker in the room was on their feet instantly. Weapons appeared from nowhere. Knives, guns. These men were ready for war. But Eleanor stepped forward, put herself between them and the door. "No, let me handle this. Miss Blackwood, this is my diner, my fight. Let me handle it." The SUV pulled into the parking lot, stopped. 2 security guards got out first. Big men in suits, then the man Eleanor had been expecting. Mid-40s, slicked back hair, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Warren Grayson, senior account manager at First Mountain Financial. He walked to the door like he owned the place. Maybe he thought he did. Maybe he thought the foreclosure notice gave him rights. He was about to learn different. Eleanor opened the door before he could knock, stepped outside into the cold. The security guards moved to flank her, but she ignored them, focused on Warren. "Mr. Grayson, it's late or early, depends on how you look at it. Mrs. Blackwood." Warren's smile was practiced, professional, fake as fool's gold. "I'm glad I found you. There's been a development." "I'm sure there has." Warren pulled out a folder, expensive leather, the kind that held important documents. Life-changing documents. Life-ending documents. The bank has decided to accelerate the foreclosure process. Due to recent financial irregularities, we're moving the deadline forward. Eleanor's heart stopped. Forward, how far? Tomorrow, 9 a.m., 4 days had become one night. Warren handed her the document. She saw the judge's signature, saw the official seal, saw her future disappearing even faster than she'd thought possible. "That's not legal. It's perfectly legal, Mrs. Blackwood. Check the fine print in your loan agreement. The bank reserves the right to accelerate in cases of irregularity." "What irregularity? I've never missed a payment. Not until your husband died." "I understand it's unfortunate, but business is business." Warren gestured to the diner behind her, to the bikes parked outside, to the hellsangels watching through the window. "I see you have guests. That's good. You'll want witnesses when we take possession tomorrow morning. Sheriff will be here at 9 sharp. I suggest you have your personal belongings packed by then." Eleanor felt the rage building. 18 months of grief, 40 years of fighting, $52 and a dead husband, and a bank that smelled blood in the water. All of it crystallized into one perfect moment of clarity. She stepped closer to Warren Grayson, close enough to smell his expensive cologne, close enough to see the calculation in his eyes. He thought he'd won, thought she was beaten. "I know what you're doing, Mr. Grayson. Excuse me, I know what your bank has been doing. Targeting small businesses, waiting until owners are vulnerable, then swooping in with impossible demands and fabricated irregularities." Eleanor held his gaze. And tomorrow morning when you show up with your sheriff's deputies, you're going to face more than just an old woman. You're going to face an army. You're going to face witnesses. You're going to face the truth about what First Mountain Financial really is." Warren's smile flickered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Eleanor stepped back, looked at the black SUV, at the security guards, at the man who thought he could take everything she had left. "You want this diner, you'll have to fight for it. Because I'm not going down quiet. I'm not going down alone. And I'm damn sure not going down to a snake in a suit who makes his living destroying people." Warren's smile disappeared completely. "Mrs. Blackwood, I strongly suggest you vacate the premises by morning. We'll have sheriff's deputies. This will be much easier if you cooperate. And I strongly suggest you leave my property before I have 15 Hell's Angels remove you." Ghost appeared in the doorway behind her. Then Hammer. Then Kieran. Then all 15 bikers, standing in a line, a wall of leather and muscle and barely contained violence. Warren took one look and went pale. "This isn't over." "No, it's not." Eleanor's voice was steel. "But it will be, and you're going to lose." Warren got back in his SUV. The security guards followed. They drove away fast, taillights disappearing into the storm. Eleanor watched them go, then turned to face the men behind her. 4 days just became 12 hours. Ghost pulled out his satellite phone. "Then we better make them count." He dialed. Steele answered on the first ring. "Steele, Warren Grayson from First Mountain just showed up. Move the deadline to tomorrow morning. 9 a.m., a pause. How long do we have?" Ghost looked at the clock. 2:59, 12 hours. Eleanor heard Steele's voice through the speaker. Couldn't make out the words, but heard the tone. Determination, fury, purpose. "Then we ride now. Every chapter within 300 miles. I don't care about the storm. I don't care about the roads. We ride now." Ghost hung up, looked at Eleanor. His eyes were fierce. "Mrs. Blackwood, I need you to do something for me." "What? Trust us." Eleanor looked at this man she'd met 4 hours ago, this Hell's Angel, this outlaw, this stranger who'd become something else. "Brother, ally, friend, I do." The words came out without thinking, but they were true. She trusted him, trusted all of them. These men had ridden through hell to honor their dead. Now they were going to ride through hell to save her, and Eleanor Blackwood was going to let them. "Then get some rest," Ghost said. "Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Eleanor nodded, but she didn't rest. She stood at the window and watched the highway, watched for headlights, watched for the army that was coming. $52 couldn't save her. But maybe brotherhood could. Maybe kindness returned after all. Maybe 40 years of keeping the lights on had earned her something she'd never expected. Family, real family, the kind you choose, the kind that rides through storms to save you. Callum's photograph watched from the wall. His eyes seemed to say, I told you it would matter." Eleanor whispered to him one more time, "They're coming, baby. Everyone's coming." And outside in the darkness across the highways of the West they were. Phoenix, Oakland, Denver, Salt Lake, Vegas, Portland, Sacramento, Reno. Hundreds of motorcycles starting their engines. Hundreds of brothers and sisters preparing to ride. All of them heading toward the same destination. All of them answering the same call. Save the angel. Protect the woman who'd protected them all. The storm was breaking. Dawn was coming. And with it, an army. Eleanor Blackwood stood alone in her diner and waited. Not with fear, not with despair, but with something she'd thought was dead. Hope. The real kind. The kind that came from knowing you'd spent 40 years doing the right thing. And the right thing had finally come home. The CB radio wouldn't stop screaming. Eleanor stood behind the counter at 3:15 in the morning and listened to her world change. Voice after voice, chapter after chapter. Men she'd never met pledging their lives to save hers. The static-filled speakers carried promises across hundreds of miles of frozen highway. Phoenix, Oakland, Denver, Salt Lake, Vegas, Portland. All of them coming. All of them riding through a storm that should have killed them. Ghost worked the radio like a general coordinating troops. His voice steady, certain giving orders that men followed without question. But Eleanor wasn't listening to Ghost anymore. She was making her own calls. Her hands were steadier now. Strange how purpose did that. How fighting back made you stronger than surrender ever could. She pulled out the battered address book she'd kept for 40 years. Customers, friends, people who'd stopped at Blackwood's Haven and left their numbers. Some of the pages were water-stained. Some had coffee rings. All of them represented connections, lives touched, favors she'd never called in. Until now. Eleanor picked up the phone and started dialing. The first call went to Margaret Patterson in Elko, Trucker's wife. Her husband had broken down outside the diner in 2003. Eleanor and Callum had let them sleep in booth 7, fed them breakfast, helped fix their rig. Margaret answered on the third ring, groggy and confused. "Eleanor, Maggie, I need help," she explained quickly. The foreclosure, the accelerated deadline, the bank's lies. Margaret's voice hardened halfway through. "That's illegal. They can't just move up a deadline like that." "They did. I've got the paperwork. Give me an hour. I've got a cousin who's a lawyer in Reno. He owes me." Big. Second call. Thomas Ashford, owner of a small newspaper in Carson City. She'd helped his daughter once. The girl had been stranded, scared, running from something. Eleanor had given her money, a place to stay, a listening ear. Thomas picked up on the first ring. "Mrs. Blackwood, it's 3 a.m. I know, I'm sorry, but I need you to listen." She told him everything. The foreclosure, First Mountain Financial, Warren's acceleration of the deadline. Thomas was silent for a long moment. Then his voice changed, became something sharp and hungry. "Mrs. Blackwood, if what you're saying is true about this pattern of predatory lending, this could be a major story. It's true, every word. And I'm going to spend the rest of the night documenting it, gathering evidence, finding other victims." Eleanor paused. "I need your help. I need a reporter who's willing to investigate. Someone who can expose what this bank has been doing." "My daughter, Meredith, she's been looking for a story like this for years. Graduated top of her journalism program. Works for me now. She can be there in 3 hours with a camera crew. Can you call her? Tell her everything I just told you." "Consider it done." Third call, fourth. Fifth, Eleanor worked through the list systematically, calling in favors, building her own case, not just relying on the bikers, taking control of her own defense. Ghost noticed what she was doing, watched her for a moment, then nodded approval. The angel was fighting back, using her own weapons, her own network. Bryn appeared beside her with fresh coffee. "You should rest, Eleanor." "Can't. Too much to do." Bryn set down the cup, put a hand over Eleanor's. "My son is here because of you. After 15 years of being separated, he followed your business card through a blizzard and walked into this diner the same night I arrived. That's not coincidence." Eleanor looked across the diner. Finn sat in a booth with his mother, talking quietly, making up for lost time, healing wounds that had bled for 15 years. He had the old card, the one with the shelter address. "I kept everything you gave me, every scrap of paper, every piece of hope. When Finn was old enough, I showed him. Told him about the angel who saved us. He's been carrying that card for 3 years. Searching." Bryn's voice cracked. "He drove from California, spent months looking for this diner. The highway numbers had changed, the landmarks shifted, but he had faith. And tonight the storm pushed him right to your door. Not random then, purposeful. Nothing about tonight is random, Eleanor. Don't you see that the door opened, cold air rushed in, an old man stepped through, 80 if he was a day, bent and weathered, walking with a cane. He wore a flannel shirt and worn jeans, trucker's boots with salt stains. His face was creased with decades of sun and wind and hard miles. He stopped in the middle of the diner and looked around, at the bikers, at Bryn and Finn, at Eleanor behind the counter. His eyes filled with tears. Well, I'll be damned. Blackwood's Haven. I finally found it, and Eleanor stared at him. Something familiar in his face. Something she couldn't quite place. Do I know you named Silas? Silas Whitlock. The memory hit like lightning. Summer 1987. The overturned semi. The man trapped upside down in the cab. Callum crawling through broken glass to cut the seatbelt. Both of them dragging 200 pounds of unconscious trucker up a ditch in 100-degree heat. The ambulance arriving. The man being loaded on a stretcher. Gone before he could say thank you. The truck driver. The one Callum saved. Silas's eyes widened. You remember I never knew your name. By the time we got you to the hospital, you were unconscious. When I called to check on you the next day, you'd already been discharged. We never heard from you again. I tried. God knows I tried. Silas moved closer, leaning heavy on his cane. I asked at the hospital who brought me in. They said a couple from a diner on Highway 50, but they didn't have a name, didn't have an address, just somewhere on Highway 50 between Ely and Carson City. That's a lot of highway. 37 years. You've been looking for 37 years. Every time I drove through Nevada, I'd look, stopped at every diner, asked every trucker, monitored CB channels. Nobody knew Blackwood's Haven. Some said it was a legend, a ghost story, a place that didn't exist except in trucker tales. Silas reached into his coat. Then tonight I'm at a truck stop in Ely, monitoring CB traffic like I always do. And I hear it, ghost calling Steele, saying he's at Blackwood's Haven on Highway 50, the Angel's place. After 37 years of searching, I finally had a location. He pulled out a thick envelope. His hand shook. I drove straight through the storm. Didn't care if I died trying, because I needed to find you, needed to say thank you, needed to give you this. What is it? Everything I've saved, every penny I could spare for 37 years, money I set aside to pay back the people who saved my life. Silas set the envelope on the counter. Your husband. Is he here? Eleanor's throat tightened. Callum died 18 months ago. Heart attack. Right there behind the counter. Silas closed his eyes. A tear rolled down his weathered cheek. Then I'm too late to thank him. No, Eleanor picked up the envelope. It was heavy, solid, real. You just did. She opened it. Inside were bills, hundreds, 50s, 20s, neatly stacked and bound. She didn't count it, didn't need to. This was a lifetime of gratitude, a lifetime of one man keeping a promise to people he'd never forgotten. How much is in here? $37,000. $1,000 for every year I look for you. Silas, I can't. You can and you will. His voice was stronger now, firmer. That money is yours, Mrs. Blackwood. It's always been yours. I've just been holding it until I could give it back. Ghost approached, looked at the envelope, at Silas, at Eleanor. Mrs. Blackwood, add that to what the chapters have brought. We're at $105,000. Cash. Eleanor's knees went weak. $105,000. She needed 11. The rest could rebuild, could expand, could secure the diner's future for years. The CB radio crackled. Blackwood's Haven, this is Steele. I'm 30 minutes out. Stopped for fuel and sparks. Got 112 bikes behind me. A pause. And Eleanor, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about money. This is about what you represent. 40 years of proof that good people exist. We're not letting that die. Not on my watch. Eleanor took the handset. Her voice didn't shake anymore. Mr. Donnelly, I want you to know something. I'm not a victim waiting to be rescued. I'm a fighter. And I've been making my own calls tonight, building my own case. When that bank shows up in the morning, they're going to face more than just bikers. Static. Then Steele's laugh, deep and genuine. That's what I wanted to hear. See you in 30, Angel. Eleanor set down the handset, looked at Ghost, at Silas, at the envelope full of money, at her diner full of people who'd become family. What time is it, 4:20? Eleanor nodded. Then we've got 4 hours and 40 minutes. Let's use them. She moved with purpose now. Not the tired shuffle of a grieving widow, the determined stride of a woman with a mission. She pulled out legal documents, loan papers, the foreclosure notice. Everything First Mountain Financial had sent her over the last 6 months. Spread them across table 4. Ghost, I need you to do something for me. Name it. When Steele gets here, I need a clear count. Every dollar, every cent. I want documentation, receipts, proof of where every penny came from. Because when Warren Grayson shows up with his lawyers, I want this airtight. Yes, ma'am. And I need someone to ride to Carson City, find a notary, someone who can witness and certify documents at 5 in the morning. Hammer stepped forward. I'll go. I know a guy. Owes me a favor. Eleanor looked at him. This massive man with his gentle voice and violent past. Thank you, Marcus. Hammer blinked. She'd used his real name, not his road name. his real name. It meant something. Meant she saw him as a person, not just a biker. "Yes, ma'am, I'll be back in 90 minutes. He was gone before she could say more. The door closing behind him. The rumble of his Harley fading into the pre-dawn darkness. Eleanor kept working, made more calls. By the time she'd worked through her address book, she'd accomplished something Warren Grayson hadn't expected. She'd built a case. Found 17 other business owners. First Mountain had foreclosed on using the same tactics. Documented a pattern. Created evidence of systematic fraud. By 5:15, headlights appeared on the horizon. Not two, not 10, hundreds. They came like a river of light. Motorcycles in formation riding through the breaking storm. The sound built slowly, a distant rumble that grew into thunder, grew into an earthquake, grew into a mechanical symphony that shook the windows. Steele's convoy had arrived. They filled the parking lot, spilled onto the highway, lined up along the shoulder for a quarter mile in each direction. 112 motorcycles, 112 riders, all of them here, all of them ready. The lead bike pulled in first. The rider dismounted slowly. He was massive, 6'5", maybe 6'6". Gray beard hung to his chest, arms like tree trunks, leather vest covered in patches and pins and the marks of a lifetime in the club. This was Magnus Donnelly, Steele, the national president of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. He walked toward the diner. The crowd parted for him. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. This man commanded respect without demanding it, earned it through decades of leadership and sacrifice. Eleanor met him at the door. She didn't wait for him to come inside. Stepped out into the cold. Met him as an equal. Steele stopped. Looked at her. Really looked at her. Then he smiled. "Mrs. Blackwood, Mr. Donnelly, call me Steele, call me Eleanor." They shook hands. His grip was firm but gentle. Careful of her age, respectful of her strength. "I've been wanting to meet you for 23 years. I'm sorry I don't remember your brother. I helped so many people." The faces blur together. Steele shook his head. "Don't apologize. That's what makes you an angel. You help because it's right, not because you want recognition." He pulled out an envelope from his jacket. "My brother Declan wrote this 2 weeks before he died. Cancer. 6 years ago. He made me promise I'd find you someday. Made me promise I'd say thank you." Steele's voice cracked. Just a little. Just enough to show he was human underneath all that leather and authority. "I've been looking for 6 years. Tonight Ghost called and told me where you were. Told me you were in trouble. And I knew. This was my chance. My chance to keep my promise to Declan." He handed her the envelope. "Read it. When you're ready. Not now, later, when you need to remember why all this matters." Eleanor took the letter. The paper was worn, soft from being carried, being touched, being read over and over by a man who missed his brother. "Thank you." "No." Steele put his hands on her shoulders. "Thank you for saving him, for giving me 30 more years with my little brother, for being the kind of person who stops for strangers on the highway." He paused. "And now, tell me what you need. Tell me how we save this place." Eleanor straightened, looked at this giant of a man, this leader, this brother. "I need documentation. I need legal standing. I need proof that every dollar we collect is legitimate, because that bank is going to try everything to discredit us." Steele nodded. "Ghost already told me. We've got it covered. Every chapter brought receipts, signed statements, notarized documents. This isn't just cash in an envelope. This is a legal defense fund. And I need witnesses. People who've been hurt by First Mountain Financial. People willing to testify." Eleanor handed him her notes. Names, addresses, phone numbers she'd compiled over the last 2 hours. "I've got 17 names, business owners they've foreclosed on using the same tactics they're using on me. I need them here by 9. Steele pulled out his phone. "Give me the list. I'll have riders pick them up. They'll be here." Eleanor handed him her notes. Steele started making calls, dispatching riders like a general moving troops. Within minutes, motorcycles were leaving, heading to Reno, Carson City, Italy, Sparks, collecting witnesses, building a case. Ghost appeared beside Eleanor. "Mrs. Blackwood, you should sit down. You've been going for over 14 hours straight. I'll sit when this is over." Ma'am. Eleanor turned to face him. Her voice was quiet but fierce. Axel, I appreciate your concern, but I've been fighting for 18 months. I'm not stopping with 4 hours to go. Ghost held her gaze, then nodded. Yes, ma'am. But even as she said it, Eleanor felt the exhaustion creeping in. The adrenaline was wearing off. 68 years, 14 hours without sleep. The stress of losing everything. It was catching up. Her hands started to shake. Her vision blurred. The room tilted. Mrs. Blackwood's ghost's voice sounded far away. Eleanor grabbed the counter, held on, but her legs weren't working right. Her chest felt tight. Pain shot down her left arm. Not like this. Not now. Not when they were so close. She fell. Ghost caught her before she hit the floor. Shouted for help. Bikers surrounded her. Laid her down gently. Someone put a jacket under her head. Someone else called 911. Eleanor fought to stay conscious. Fought to breathe. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when everyone had come to save her. Not when Callum's dream was so close to surviving. Ambulance is coming. Ghost's face appeared above her. Stay with me, Eleanor. Stay with me. I can't leave. The bank, to hell with the bank. You're more important than any diner. No. Eleanor grabbed his arm. Her grip was weak but determined. The diner is all I have left of him. If I leave, if I go to a hospital, Warren wins. He takes it, destroys it, erases 40 years like they never happened. Then we'll fight for you. Not the same. Has to be me. Has to be her. Voice failed. The pain was too much, but she forced the words out. Has to be me. My fight. My diner. My promise. The paramedics arrived 8 minutes later. 2 young men with equipment in authority. They checked her vitals, blood pressure through the roof, heart rate irregular, possible cardiac event. They wanted to transport immediately. Eleanor refused. Ma'am, you need to go to a hospital. No, Mrs. Blackwood, you could be having a heart attack. Then I'll have it here. The older paramedic looked at Ghost, at the 100 bikers surrounding them. At Eleanor's determined face, ma'am, this is serious. I know it's serious. Everything I've worked for my entire life is about to be taken away in 4 hours. That's serious too. Eleanor struggled to sit up. The paramedic tried to stop her, but she pushed through. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to monitor me, check my vitals, give me whatever medication I need to stay stable. But I'm not leaving this diner. Not until 9. Not until I face that bank. The paramedic started to protest. Steele stepped forward. His presence filled the room. The lady has made her choice. You going to help her, or do I need to find someone who will? The paramedic looked at Eleanor, at Steele, at the impossible situation, against medical advice. You'll need to sign a waiver. Fine. Give it to me. They set up a portable monitoring station in booth 3. Callum's booth. The paramedic attached electrodes, set up an IV, gave her medication to stabilize her heart rate. Eleanor sat there and let them work, but her eyes never left the clock. 5:47, 3 hours and 13 minutes. Bryn brought her water. Finn brought a blanket. The bikers gave her space but stayed close. Protective. Worried. These hard men who'd seen violence and death were scared for a 68-year-old woman having a health crisis. Ghost sat across from her. His face was tight with concern. This is my fault. We pushed you too hard. No, I pushed myself because this matters. The diner matters. Your life matters more. The diner is my life. Eleanor met his eyes. Callum and I built this place from nothing, poured 40 years into it, fed thousands of people, helped anyone who needed it. This isn't just a building. It's a promise. It's proof that kindness exists. And I'm not letting some corrupt bank erase that, even if it kills you, especially if it kills me. Eleanor smiled. It hurt, but she smiled anyway, because then everyone will know what they destroyed. Then everyone will see what First Mountain Financial really is. The door opened. A woman walked in, late 30s professional closed camera crew behind her. She had determined eyes and moved with purpose. She looked around the diner with wide eyes, at the bikers, at Eleanor hooked up to medical equipment, at the army gathering to fight a bank, Miss Blackwood. Eleanor nodded weakly. I'm Meredith Ashford. My father called me at 3 this morning. Said you had a story that could bring down a bank. I have a story. Question is, are you willing to tell it? Meredith pulled up a chair, set up a recorder, signaled her cameraman to start filming. Tell me everything. Eleanor talked for 45 minutes, told her about Callum, about opening the diner in 1982, about the promise they'd made, about 40 years of helping travelers without expecting anything in return, about Callum's death, about the medical bills, about selling everything to keep the diner open, about First Mountain Financial and Warren Grayson, about spending the night calling other victims, about finding 17 other businesses destroyed the same way, about documenting a pattern of predatory lending, about evidence of systematic fraud. Meredith listened, took notes, asked sharp questions. The camera captured everything. When Eleanor finished, Meredith sat back. Her face was hard. This is bigger than one diner. This is corporate fraud, systematic targeting of vulnerable business owners. I know, that's why I need you to expose it. I will. But Mrs. Blackwood, I need you to understand something. When this airs, you're going to become national news. Your privacy is gone. Your life becomes public. People will want interviews, photos to meet the angel of Highway 50. Are you ready for that? Eleanor looked around her diner. At the bikers, at Bryn and Finn, at Silas, at Ghost and Steel, at the family she'd found in the darkest moment of her life. Privacy is overrated. Justice matters more. Meredith smiled. Then let's get you justice. The interview aired on the local news at 7. By 7:30, it had been picked up by regional networks. By 8, it was national. The story spread like wildfire. Angel faces eviction. Hell's Angels mobilized to save her. Bank accused of systematic fraud. The phones at Blackwood's Haven started ringing. Donations, offers of help, lawyers volunteering services, people wanting to know where to send money. Eleanor watched it happen from booth 3, watched her private grief become public spectacle. But she didn't regret it, because now the world was watching. Now Warren Grayson couldn't make her disappear quietly. Now First Mountain Financial would face consequences. Steele approached at 8:15. We've got a complication. What now? Warren filed an emergency restraining order. Claims we're occupying your property illegally. Says you're being coerced by gang members. Sheriff's office is sending deputies. Eleanor felt the rage building. Even now, even with the world watching, Warren was trying to destroy her. When they'll be here by 9, same time Warren shows up with his foreclosure papers. Then we need to be ready. Eleanor stood up. The paramedic tried to stop her, but she waved him off, disconnected the IV herself, pulled off the electrodes. Her heart was still racing, but it was holding. The medication was working. She could stand, could fight. Mrs. Blackwood, you need to rest. I'll rest when this is over. Eleanor walked to the counter, pulled out the money. $105,000, added Silas's $37,000, $142,000 total. More than enough to pay the debt and secure the diner's future. Ghost, I need you to count this. Get exact totals. I want documentation for every bill. He nodded and got to work. Bikers helped. They counted in teams, verified amounts, made lists. By 8:30, they had final numbers. $142,375. All accounted for, all documented, all legitimate. Steele's phone rang. He answered, listened, hung up. The witnesses are arriving. 17 business owners, First Mountain foreclosed on. They're all willing to testify. Eleanor felt hope building, real hope. The kind backed by evidence and witnesses in an army of people who'd been wronged. At 8:45, a convoy of vehicles arrived. Not bikes this time. Regular cars, trucks, minivans, the business owners Steele had collected. They filed into the diner one by one. A restaurant owner from Sparks, a garage owner from Eli, a bookstore owner from Carson City. All of them destroyed by First Mountain Financial. All of them ready to fight back. Eleanor greeted each one personally, shook their hands, thanked them for coming. These were her people, small business owners who tried to make honest livings, who'd been crushed by a system that valued profit over people. One woman approached her, mid-50s, tired eyes, hands that shook. Mrs. Blackwood, I'm Rebecca Winters. First Mountain took my bakery 3 years ago. Same pattern, same tactics, same lies. She grabbed Eleanor's hands. When I heard what was happening here, when I heard someone was finally fighting back, I had to come, had to help. Because if you win, maybe I can get my bakery back. Maybe we all can. Eleanor squeezed her hands. Then let's win. At 8:55, the black SUVs appeared on the horizon. 4 of them. Warren Grayson in the lead. Behind him, sheriff's deputies in marked cars. Behind them, lawyers in expensive sedans. An army of suits and badges and legal authority coming to take everything she had left. But Eleanor wasn't afraid anymore. She walked outside. Not alone, Ghost beside her, Steel beside her, 112 Hell's Angels behind her, 17 business owners behind them. Meredith and her camera crew filming everything, the world watching. Warren got out of his SUV, saw the crowd, saw the cameras, saw the army waiting for him. His practiced smile faltered. This wasn't what he'd expected. He'd expected a broken old woman, ready to surrender, ready to hand over the keys and disappear quietly. Instead, he found war. Mrs. Blackwood. His voice wasn't as confident anymore. It's 9 o'clock. Time to vacate the premises. Eleanor didn't move, didn't flinch. She'd spent 18 months being afraid, being small, being defeated. Not anymore, Bob. Mr. Grayson, before we discuss vacating anything, I have something for you. She pulled out a folder. Thick, professional, organized. This contains documentation of 17 other businesses your bank has foreclosed on using identical tactics. Fabricated irregularities, accelerated timelines, predatory lending, all of it documented, all of it witnessed, all of it ready for federal investigation. Warren's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Eleanor stepped closer. I spent last night calling every victim I could find, building a case, gathering evidence, and these 17 people behind me, they're ready to testify, ready to expose what First Mountain Financial really is. She paused, but that's not even the best part. The best part is this. Ghost stepped forward, opened a briefcase. Inside was a cashier's check, notarized, certified, legal, $142,375 from the Blackwoods Haven Defense Fund. Contributions from over 100 chapters of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, plus individual donations, all documented, all legal, all real. Eleanor took the check from Ghost, held it up so Warren could see, so the cameras could see, so the world could see. This is payment in full for my loan, with interest. You have no legal standing to foreclose. The debt is satisfied. Warren looked at the check, at the cameras, at the crowd, at the impossible situation he'd walked into. One of his lawyers whispered urgently in his ear. Warren's face went from white to red to white again. We'll need to verify the funds. Verify all you want. It's real money, from real people. All documented, all legal. Steel stepped forward, his presence overwhelming. Mrs. Blackwood has paid her debt in full. You're going to accept this payment. You're going to sign a release, and you're going to walk away. Steele's voice dropped to something dangerous. Because if you don't, every news station in America is going to hear the full story. How First Mountain Financial systematically targeted vulnerable business owners. How you fabricated irregularities to accelerate foreclosures. How you destroyed 17 other families the same way you tried to destroy this one. He paused. And then the federal investigators are going to get very interested in your bank's practices. And you personally, Mr. Grayson. Warren looked at his lawyers, at the sheriff's deputies who were looking increasingly uncomfortable, at the cameras broadcasting everything live, at the crowd of bikers and business owners and witnesses ready to testify. He'd lost and he knew it. Fine. His voice was tight. I'll need time to draw up release documents. You've got 30 minutes? Eleanor's voice was steel. And Mr. Grayson, make sure they're correct, because I've got lawyers reviewing every word. And if there's even one clause that gives your bank any future claim on my property, we're going to have a much longer conversation. With federal investigators present, Warren and his lawyers retreated to their SUVs. The crowd waited. Eleanor sat on the diner steps. She was shaking again, but not from fear, from relief, from exhaustion, from the weight of 40 years finally lifting. Bryn sat beside her. You did it. We did it. All of us. Eleanor looked at the crowd. at the bikers who'd ridden through hell, at the business owners who'd come to testify, at Silas who'd searched for 37 years, at Ghost and Steele and Kieran, at Finn reunited with his mother, at the family she'd built without meaning to. Callum would be proud. He is proud. I guarantee it. At 9:30, Warren emerged with documents. Release of lien, satisfaction of debt, proof that Blackwood's Haven belonged to Eleanor Blackwood free and clear, with no future claims from First Mountain Financial. Eleanor read every word. Ghost's lawyers reviewed every clause. Steele witnessed. When she was satisfied, Eleanor signed. Her hand steady now, strong. Warren handed her the final documents. Wouldn't meet her eyes. Mrs. Blackwood, the debt is satisfied. First Mountain Financial has no further claim on this property. Eleanor took the documents, held them against her chest like she'd held Callum's photograph 14 hours earlier. The difference between despair and salvation, between losing everything and keeping a promise. Mr. Grayson, one more thing. What Eleanor's voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. Every person your bank hurt, every family you destroyed, every dream you killed for profit. They're coming for you now. The law is coming. Justice is coming, and you can't stop it. She paused. I suggest you start looking for a good lawyer, because you're going to need one. Warren got in his SUV without responding, drove away with his lawyers and security guards. The sheriff's deputies followed, looking relieved to be leaving. The convoy disappeared down Highway 50, leaving behind an army of people who just won a battle most didn't know they were fighting. The crowd erupted in cheers. Bikers lifted Eleanor onto their shoulders, careful of her age, gentle despite their strength. Someone started chanting, "Angel, angel, angel." Soon the whole crowd joined in, 112 bikers, 17 business owners, camera crews, surveillance, witnesses to a miracle. Eleanor laughed through her tears, 68 years old, $142,000 richer, still owner of Blackwood's Haven, still keeper of Callum's promise, still the angel of Highway 50. They set her down gently. Steele approached with the envelope Eleanor had seen earlier. Eleanor, you should read this now. Declan's letter. I think it's time. Eleanor took the envelope. Her hands were steadier now. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper. Handwriting shaky from illness, but still legible. She read it aloud so everyone could hear. Dear Angel, you won't remember me. I was just another lost soul who broke down on Highway 50 23 years ago. I was 28, broke and running from everything. Running from the war I'd come back from. Running from the life I couldn't figure out how to live. Running toward death because it seemed easier than fighting. My car broke down in the middle of summer. 110 degrees. No water, no hope. I sat there in the dirt and waited to die. Thought that's what I deserved. Thought the world would be better off without me. Then you found me, drove me to the hospital, sat with me while they pumped me full of fluids, talked to me about life and roads and second chances. And when I tried to pay you, when I pulled out my last $20, you pushed it back. Just pass it on, honey. Help somebody else when you get the chance. Those words saved my life, not the hospital, not the doctors, you, your kindness, your belief that I was worth saving when I didn't believe it myself. I got sober after that, found my brother Magnus, found the club, found brothers who understood, spent 30 years helping other veterans, other broken men, other people who needed someone to tell them they mattered. I'm dying now, cancer, but I'm not afraid because I lived a good life, and it all started with you. Thank you, Angel. Thank you for everything. Declan Donnelly, Eleanor finished reading, tears streaming down her face. The crowd was silent. Even the hardest bikers were crying. Steele stood with his head bowed, shoulders shaking, grieving his brother all over again. Eleanor folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope, held it against her heart. Mr. Donnelly, Magnus, Steele. He looked up. Your brother was wrong about one thing. What's that? He said I saved his life, but he saved mine too. Him and everyone like him. Everyone I helped over 40 years. They're the reason I kept going after Callum died. They're the reason I didn't give up. She paused. We saved each other. That's what people do. When they remember that kindness matters. When they remember we're all connected. Steele pulled her into a hug. This massive man and this small woman, united by grief and gratitude in the memory of a brother who'd found hope on a desert highway. The celebration lasted until noon. Then the bikers started leaving. Not all at once, in groups, chapters heading home, back to their lives. But they promised to return. Promised to stop at Blackwood's Haven every time they rode through Nevada. Promised to keep the light burning. Ghost was the last to leave. He stood in the parking lot, his bike packed and ready, but he hesitated. Eleanor, I need you to know something. She waited. When we knocked on your door last night, we were dying, frozen, desperate. You could have turned us away, should have turned us away. We're hell's angels. We're dangerous. We're everything polite society fears. But you opened that door anyway. Ghost's voice cracked. You saved 15 lives last night, and in return we got to save yours. That's balance. That's justice. That's how the world should work. Eleanor put her hand on his arm. Axel, you didn't save me. You reminded me who I was, what I'd built, why it mattered. Sometimes that's more important than money. Ghost nodded, climbed on his bike, started the engine. Then he looked back. The light stays on Eleanor, no matter what. We're watching. We're protecting. And if anyone ever threatens this place again, they'll answer to us. I know. Ghost rode away. Eleanor watched until he disappeared. Then she turned back to her diner. Blackwood's Haven, 40 years old, saved by an army, protected by brotherhood, proven to matter. Inside, Finn and Bryn were cleaning tables. Silas was helping. The paramedic had finally packed up his equipment, satisfied that Eleanor was stable. Meredith was editing footage for the evening news. Life was returning to normal, except nothing would ever be normal again. Eleanor Blackwood had become a legend. The angel of Highway 50, the woman who'd kept the lights on for 40 years and been saved by the people she'd saved. She walked to booth 3, Callum's booth, sat down in the cracked vinyl seat, looked at his photograph on the wall. He was smiling, like he'd known all along how this would end. We kept our promise, my love, and tomorrow we start keeping it again. But tonight I'm going to rest, because we won, against all odds, against a corrupt bank, against time and grief and despair. We won. The sun set over Highway 50. The neon sign flickered to life. Blackwood's Haven. Open 24 hours. The light that never dies. And inside, Eleanor Blackwood closed her eyes and slept. Really slept. For the first time in 18 months. Because she knew, finally knew, that everything she'd built, everything she'd fought for, everything Callum had believed, it all mattered, every bit of it, and it would matter for generations to come. Eleanor woke to the sound of engines. Not 15, not 100. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The rumble built like distant thunder, growing closer, shaking the windows of Blackwood's Haven. She'd slept for 3 hours in booth 3, dreamless sleep, the kind that came after winning battles you thought were already lost. Her body ached. 68 years and 16 hours of fighting had left her bones feeling like glass. But she was alive. The diner was hers. The promise was kept. Bryn appeared with coffee. Eleanor, you need to see this. What now? Just look. Eleanor stood slowly, walked to the window. What she saw made her knees weak all over again. The highway was gone, buried under a river of vehicles. Cars, trucks, RVs, motorcycles, buses. They stretched from horizon to horizon, hundreds of them, maybe more, all with their headlights on, all moving toward Blackwood's Haven in slow procession like pilgrims approaching a shrine. What is this? Bryn's voice was soft with wonder. Meredith's story went viral. 6 million views in 8 hours. People saw what First Mountain Financial tried to do, saw how you fought back, saw the Hell's Angels saving the angel, and they wanted to come, wanted to say thank you in person. Eleanor pressed her face to the glass. The convoy was slowing, pulling into the parking lot, filling every space, spilling onto the shoulder, lining up for miles. Who are they? The people you've helped over 40 years. Meredith's been trying to track them down for months for a follow-up story. Over 300 confirmed. All of them wanted to come. Eleanor's hand went to her chest. Her heart was racing again, but not from stress, from something bigger, something she'd never expected. Recognition, validation, proof that 40 years of kindness had mattered to more people than she'd ever imagined. The lead vehicle stopped. A minivan, California plates. The driver got out. Woman in her 50s. Gray hair pulled back, kind eyes. She looked around at the diner. The bikers still present the cameras, the crowd. Then she saw Eleanor through the window. Her face broke into a smile. Eleanor opened the door, stepped outside. The woman crossed the parking lot quickly. Mrs. Blackwood. Eleanor nodded. My name is Patricia Brennan. 18 years ago, my husband and I were driving to Oregon. Our car broke down right in front of your diner. It was midnight, freezing. We had 2 kids in the back seat, 3 and 5 years old. Eleanor's memory stirred. Late winter, young couple, terrified, babies crying. You let us sleep in the booths, fed us breakfast. Your husband helped fix our radiator. You wouldn't take money. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I wanted to come, to finally say thank you. Eleanor took her hands. I remember. Your little girl had a fever. We gave her medicine. Your boy wouldn't stop crying until Callum gave him a toy truck. Patricia sobbed. You remember. How could I forget? Behind Patricia, more people were emerging from vehicles. An old man with a cane, a young couple, a soldier in uniform, a woman with teenage children. They approached slowly, reverently. Eleanor stood in the parking lot and watched them come, one by one, carrying their stories, carrying their gratitude, carrying proof that 40 years of kindness had created something that would outlive her. A soldier stepped forward, young, maybe 30, dressed uniform sharp and clean. Mrs. Blackwood, Captain Ryan O'Neill, you gave me a meal before I deployed to Afghanistan in 2009. I was terrified. You sat with me for an hour, made me promise to come home safe, did you? The captain nodded. 2 tours. Came home because I made you a promise. Couldn't break a promise to an angel. A woman in her 40s approached. Professional clothes. Lawyer maybe. Mrs. Blackwood. I'm Jennifer Aldridge. 32 years ago, I ran away from home. 16, pregnant, scared. Walked into your diner at 2 in the morning with nowhere to go. Eleanor remembered. Young girl. So thin, eyes like a hunted animal. You didn't call my parents. You gave me a place to sleep, fed me, told me about a shelter in Carson City, gave me bus fare. Jennifer's voice cracked. My daughter is 31 now, a doctor, and I've spent my life trying to pay forward what you gave me. More stories, more people. A trucker who'd been suicidal, a mother with sick children, a veteran who'd been homeless. A woman running from domestic violence. All of them saved by Eleanor. All of them carrying the memory for years, decades. All of them here now to say thank you. Eleanor listened, tears streaming down her face, not from sadness, from overwhelming proof that her life had mattered, that Callum had been right, that small acts of kindness created ripples that spread farther than you could ever see. Meredith appeared beside him. Eleanor. This is just the beginning. We've received over 10,000 messages in the last 12 hours. People you've helped, people who want to help you, people inspired by your story. 10,000 at least. The story is everywhere. National news, international. You've become a symbol of what? Of hope. Of proof that kindness still matters in a world that tries to convince us it doesn't. Steele appeared on her other side. Eleanor. The National Council wants to make this official. Right now, with everyone watching. Make what official your legacy, your place in our brotherhood, your protection. He gestured to the crowd. Hundreds of people, bikers and civilians, families and soldiers. Everyone who'd come to witness something bigger than themselves. We're going to do a ceremony. Here. Now, to make it clear that Blackwood's Haven is sacred ground. That you are protected, that this place will stand as long as the Hells Angels exist. Eleanor looked at him, this giant of a man who'd lost his brother but found his purpose in honoring that loss. What do I need to do? Just stand there, we'll handle the rest. Steele walked to the center of the parking lot, raised his hand. The crowd went silent. Hundreds of people, all watching, all waiting. Brothers, sisters, friends, family. His voice carried across the lot, strong and clear. We gather here to honor a woman, Eleanor Blackwood, the angel of Highway 50. For 40 years, she's kept the lights on, fed the hungry, sheltered the lost, helped anyone who needed it without asking for anything in return. He paused. 2 nights ago, we rode through a blizzard to bury our brother Garrett Sutherland. We were dying, frozen. This woman opened her door, fed us, saved our lives. Then we learned she was losing everything. That a corrupt bank was stealing 40 years of kindness. Steele's voice hardened. We couldn't let that happen. Eleanor Blackwood is family now, not because of patches or colors, but because of what she represents. Brotherhood, loyalty, kindness without condition. Ghost stepped forward, carrying a wooden box. He opened it. Inside was a certificate, official, embossed, signed by every chapter president west of the Mississippi, Eleanor Blackwood. By unanimous vote of the National Council, Blackwood's Haven is hereby designated the Western Regional Headquarters of the Hells Angels Hospitality Network. Ghost handed her the certificate. Every chapter from California to Colorado will stop here at least once per year. You have permanent protection, permanent support, permanent family. Eleanor took the certificate with shaking hands, saw her name in official script, saw the signatures, saw the seal of the club. Ghost reached into the box again, pulled out a pin, silver, shaped like angel wings. The words at Highway 50 engraved across the center. These pins will be worn by every member who visits Blackwood's Haven, a mark of respect, a symbol of connection. He pinned it to Eleanor's cardigan, right over her heart. The metal caught the sun, gleamed like something precious. The crowd erupted. Bikers revved engines. People cheered. Someone started chanting, "Angel, angel, angel," hundreds of voices joining in, all celebrating one small woman who'd spent 40 years believing that kindness mattered. When the crowd quieted, Eleanor spoke. Her voice was small, but everyone heard it. 40 years ago, my husband and I made a promise. Anyone who needs help gets help. No questions, no payment, just kindness. She paused, looked at the faces watching her. Callum believed the road was lonely, believed travelers needed to know someone cared. I thought he was naive, thought small acts of kindness didn't matter. Eleanor's voice cracked. I was wrong. Callum was right. Every small act matters. Every meal served, every conversation had, every door opened. All of it creates ripples that spread farther than we can see. She held up the certificate. Thank you for showing me that. Thank you for saving my diner. Thank you for proving that 40 years wasn't wasted. Thank you for being the ripples Callum always believed in. The crowd erupted again. Eleanor didn't try to stop the tears. Let them fall. Let them wash away 18 months of grief and doubt. A young woman pushed through the crowd, late 20s, holding a baby. She approached Eleanor carefully. Mrs. Blackwood. Eleanor nodded. My name is Willa Hartley. I drove here from Seattle. 12 hours. Because I needed you to meet someone. She held out the baby. 6 months old, big blue eyes, wispy blonde hair. This is Callum, my son. I named him after your husband. Eleanor's breath caught. The baby gurgled, reached for her with tiny hands. She took him without thinking, held him against her chest. This small life named after the man she'd loved for 42 years. Why, Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. Because 37 years ago, you saved my mother's family. My grandmother was 8. Their car broke down outside your diner in winter. No money, no food. You took them in, fed them, let them stay until the car was fixed. Willa's eyes filled with tears. Mom never forgot. Named me partially inspired by your story. Told me every year about the angel. And when I had my son, I knew exactly what to name him. She paused. 3 generations, Mrs. Blackwood. 3 generations alive because you stopped to help a stranger. Eleanor looked down at the baby in her arms. This child named after her Callum. This proof that their promise had echoed across generations. She thought about her husband, about finding him dead behind the counter, about 18 months of wondering if any of it had mattered. It had mattered. God, it had mattered. Eleanor kissed the baby's forehead. handed him back to his mother. Thank you for showing me this, for naming him Callum, for being proof that love doesn't die, it just changes forms. Willa hugged her, the baby between them, 3 generations connected by a single act of kindness 37 years ago. When they pulled apart, Steele was waiting. Eleanor, there's one more thing. He pulled out architectural drawings. Spread them on the hood of a truck. We're expanding the diner, new kitchen, professional grade, seating for 100. Biker lounge with pool table and jukebox. Secure parking for 50 bikes. Maintenance bay. Eleanor stared at the plans. I can't afford this. You're not paying. We are. Every chapter is kicking in labor and materials. We've got contractors, electricians, plumbers. We'll have this done in a month. Why? Because 40 years ago you made a promise. You kept it through everything. Now it's our turn. Steele's voice was rough with emotion. We're making sure those lights never go out. Not while we're alive. Not ever. Eleanor looked at the plans, saw the expanded kitchen, the biker lounge, the future Callum had dreamed of. Made bigger, made permanent, made sacred. When do we start tomorrow? Finn appeared beside her. Mrs. Blackwood, can I talk to you? Of course. I want to stay. Work here. Help run the diner. Eleanor studied him. 24 years old. Business degree. 3 years searching for his mother. Determination in his eyes. You have a life. Plans. My plan was finding my mom. I did that. Here. That means this is where I'm supposed to be. Bryn stepped forward. Eleanor, I want to stay too. Work the kitchen. Give back what you gave me 15 years ago. Kieran approached. Mrs. Blackwood, I've been thinking about what would honor Garrett's memory. And I think it's this. Helping you. Keeping this place alive. Serving others the way he served. Kieran's voice was steady now. I want to work nights. Be here for late travelers. The desperate ones who need help at 3 in the morning. Eleanor looked at these 3 people. Finn, Bryn, Kieran. All shaped by her kindness. All ready to carry the promise forward. You understand this won't be easy. Long hours, hard work. We understand you'll have to learn to make coffee the way Callum made it. Strong enough to wake the dead. Finn grinned. We can do that. Eleanor extended her hand. Then welcome to Blackwood's Haven. They shook hands, then pulled her into a group hug. Eleanor let them hold her. She wasn't alone anymore. The celebration continued. People shared food, told stories, connected through their shared connection to Eleanor. The parking lot became a festival, a testament to what 40 years of kindness could create. As the sun began to set, people started leaving. Not all at once, but every single person stopped to say goodbye to Eleanor, to shake her hand, to hug her, to thank her one more time. By 6, only the core group remained. Steele, Ghost, Finn and Bryn, Kieran, Silas. They sat in the diner, exhausted, satisfied, victorious. Steele pulled out his phone. Brothers, this is Steele. The angel is secure. Blackwood's Haven stands. Mission complete. He looked at Eleanor. We'll be back. Every chapter. Every year. This is home now, I know. Steele embraced Eleanor. Your husband would be proud. He is proud. I can feel it. Ghost was the last to say goodbye. You changed something in me, in all of us. Reminded us why we ride. You saved my life, Axel. Ghost shook his head. We saved each other. That's how it's supposed to work. He climbed on his bike, started the engine. The light stays on forever. Ghost rode away. Eleanor watched until he disappeared. Then she turned back to her diner. Blackwood's Haven, 40 years old. Saved by an army, protected forever. Inside, Finn was learning the coffee maker. Bryn was organizing the kitchen. Kieran was studying the menu, already working, already building. Eleanor walked to booth 3, sat down, looked at Callum's photograph. We did it, baby. We kept our promise. And look what it became. You were right about everything. She closed her eyes, let exhaustion wash over her. When she woke, the diner was dark except for the neon sign. Blackwood's Haven, open 24 hours. Kieran sat behind the counter, reading, keeping watch, keeping the promise. Eleanor stood, walked to the window. Highway 50 stretched into darkness. Empty now, but tomorrow more travelers would come, and she would be here, with Finn and Bryn and Kieran, keeping Callum's promise, keeping the lights on. 1 year later, Eleanor Blackwood stood behind the counter of the new Blackwood's Haven and looked at what her life had become. The diner had transformed. Professional kitchen, seating for 100, biker lounge buzzing, parking lot held 50 motorcycles. It was her 70th birthday. 1,000 people had come to celebrate. Bikers from every chapter west of the Mississippi, business owners saved by the federal investigation, families helped over decades. Everyone touched by the angel of Highway 50. The walls held photographs now, hundreds of them, stories preserved, proof that 40 years of kindness had created something immortal. Finn managed the day shift. Bryn ran the kitchen. Kieran worked nights. Together, they carried the promise forward. Eleanor didn't work the counter every day anymore. Her heart couldn't handle it. The doctors had been clear, but she was here, greeting customers, telling stories, being the living reminder of why this place existed. Steele gave a speech. So did Ghost. So did Meredith, whose reporting had brought down First Mountain Financial and saved 17 families. So did Jennifer, the pregnant runaway who'd become a lawyer. When it was Eleanor's turn, she stood, walked to the center, looked at the faces watching. 70 years ago, I was born. 42 years ago, Callum and I opened this diner with a dream. 40 years ago, we made a promise. She paused. Callum died believing that promise mattered. I doubted him, especially after he died. But you proved him right. All of you. Eleanor's voice strengthened. This isn't my diner anymore. It's ours. Everyone who believes that kindness matters, that strangers are worth saving, that light drives out darkness. She smiled through tears. So thank you for saving me, for proving I wasn't alone, for keeping Callum's promise alive, and for being the family I never knew I needed. The crowd erupted, standing ovation, 1,000 people on their feet. Willa approached with baby Callum, 2 years old now, walking, talking. Mrs. Eleanor. The child reached for her. Eleanor picked him up. This boy named after her husband. This living proof that kindness echoes across generations. As the party continued, Eleanor slipped outside. Needed air. She sat on the front steps. The same steps where she'd waited for Warren, where she'd stood with Ghost and watched an army arrive. Ghost sat down beside her. You okay? Eleanor nodded. Just needed a moment. They sat in silence, watching Highway 50, watching travelers pass. Some saw the diner, saw the lights, pulled in, found warmth and welcome. What are you thinking about Callum? How he would have loved today. How he always believed this mattered. He was right because you kept fighting. Eleanor looked at him. What happens when I'm gone, Axel, who keeps the lights on a Ghost, was quiet. Finn and Bryn and Kieran, the chapters, everyone you've touched. This place isn't dependent on you anymore. You built something bigger than yourself, something that will outlive us all. You promise, I promise, the light stays on. Forever. Eleanor leaned into him. Let him hold her. Inside, the party continued. Outside, Highway 50 stretched into darkness, and above the neon sign glowed. Blackwood's Haven. Open 24 hours, the light that never dies. Eleanor sat with Ghost and watched the highway. Tomorrow more travelers would come, and she would be here, a living reminder, a keeper of promises, an angel who'd proven that small acts of kindness create ripples farther than you can see. The years would pass, Eleanor knew that, but the diner would stand, the promise would continue, the light would burn, because she'd built something that mattered, something worth protecting, something that would echo across generations. Not bad for $15,000 and a dream. Eleanor whispered, not bad at all, baby. Not bad at all. Ghost smiled. The party inside reached a crescendo, and Eleanor Blackwood sat on the steps of her diner and felt complete. She'd kept her promise, and in keeping it, she'd proven that love doesn't die. It transforms, spreads out, becomes a network of kindness connecting thousands of souls across decades. Becomes proof that in a world of darkness, light still wins. The highway stretched ahead, endless, full of travelers needing help. And Blackwood's Haven stood waiting, lights blazing, door open, promise kept, ready to welcome anyone who needed shelter from the storm, because they weren't alone. None of them were. The angel of Highway 50 had proven that, and her light would burn forever, guiding travelers home, one soul at a time, one act of kindness at a time, one promise kept at a time, until the end of time itself.